I mentioned earlier in a video that negotiation is dead in all of its forms in Western culture. I was using hyperbole. Clearly, negotiation is still alive in Western culture, but it is in hospice care, and not useful for much more than deciding where monies and assets go or the exchange of information. That's right. Negotiation is still alive in Western culture, but it is in hospice care. This is scary. Not to fearmonger, but from anyone who paid attention in history lessons in primary school, the absence of negotiation results from or precipitates tyranny and suffering. Negotiation leads to the cessation of inequalities, and when negotiation fails, slavery, war, and genocide typically follow. In negotiation, on a 10-point scale, one side argues for a sum of 10, the other for a sum of 1. Played out with compromise from both sides, they should land somewhere in 3 to 7 or so. Not quite what either side wanted, but not the extreme opposite either. This is pretty basic stuff, and it hurts a little bit explaining it. I don't mean to be condescending, but it hurts a little bit. In negotiation against the side arguing for 10, if you want a 3, you have to argue for a 1. If you start off arguing at a 3, you'll only be moved farther away from your goal in compromise. The problem nowadays, especially with outrageous crybullies and victim Olympians, is that nobody negotiates. One side cries for 10 and we are too lazy to talk them down, so we give them 10. And then they ask for 11. They ask for the impossible, and when they don't get it, they become hostile and violent. If, through innovation, they get 11, the impossible, it's still not good enough. Why not 13? This tyrannical greed and opposition to compromise is the fuel of violent uprising. If one or more sides can't get an acceptable result because negotiation has failed, then brute force or immoral methods quickeningly become the only solution. The death and crime and suffering resultant never solves the problem. At best, one side is wiped out and the problem is buried. It is only after negotiation is resuscitated, after significant and unsustainable losses have been incurred, it is only after negotiation is resuscitated that hostilities can enter into a cooling phase. The death of negotiation, I think, comes from an excess. Laziness combined with an abundance of resources make people think, in the aggregate, that it's all infinite and I can just get more of that later, so they hand over all they have to the demanding, so they can be on their way with 5 more minutes of peace. A week's worth of earnings has purchased them. Virtually nobody haggles in stores or groceries anymore. They assume that listed prices are incontestable. The salesmen all make the deals before you arrive, but guess what? They've marked the price down from 13 to 10 when you could both live with 7. Be good to one another, be fair, and negotiate.